Marcus Chen had always been terrible with women. Back on Earth, his dating life was a series of awkward coffee meetings and ghosted text messages. So when the transport ship Endeavour crash-landed on the jungle planet Zirion 7, and he found himself the only human survivor among a crew of 200, he figured his romantic prospects had hit rock bottom. He was wrong. They were about to get much more complicated. The crash had happened 3 days ago. Marcus crawled from the twisted wreckage of the engineering section, his maintenance uniform torn and bloody, his tool belt somehow still intact around his waist. The ship's hull had split open like a broken egg, scattering debris across several miles of dense alien forest. Emergency beacons blinked uselessly in the wreckage. The communication array was completely destroyed. Marcus was a junior maintenance tech, barely 6 months out of technical college. He wasn't supposed to survive disasters. He wasn't supposed to be the hero. He was supposed to fix broken air recyclers and unclog waste disposal units. But here he was, alive when career spacers and trained soldiers weren't. The first day he'd searched for other survivors. He found plenty of bodies, but no one breathing. The jungle had already begun claiming the wreckage, with strange vines creeping through gaps in the hull and alien insects buzzing around the emergency lighting. Marcus salvaged what he could: water purification tablets, emergency rations, a plasma cutter, and a basic medical kit. His engineering scanner had survived the crash, though its range was limited. On the second day, he'd tried to repair the emergency transmitter. The work was familiar, just basic circuit diagnostics and component replacement. But every time he thought he'd made progress, another system would fail. The ship's main computer was completely fried, and the backup units weren't much better. He managed to get a weak distress signal broadcasting, but without the main communications array, it would barely reach beyond the planet's atmosphere. Now on the third day, Marcus sat on a chunk of twisted metal outside the main wreckage, eating a protein bar that tasted like cardboard and watching alien birds circle overhead. They looked almost like Earth ravens, except for their 4 wings, and the way they seemed to shimmer in the purple-tinted sunlight. 2 small suns hung in the sky, casting double shadows through the forest canopy. His scanner beeped. Marcus glanced at it, expecting another false reading from the jungle's strange electromagnetic activity. Instead, he saw something that made his heart race: multiple life forms approaching his position. Bipedal, moving in formation. Marcus grabbed his plasma cutter and ducked behind a piece of hull plating. He wasn't a fighter, but he'd heard enough stories about hostile alien species to know that first contact could go very badly. Through a gap in the metal, he watched the edge of the forest. They emerged from the tree line like something out of a fever dream. They were definitely female, definitely humanoid, and definitely not human. The first one stood about 6 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to have a subtle luminescent quality. Her hair was silver-white and fell in waves to her shoulders. She wore form-fitting armor that looked both practical and elegant, with intricate patterns etched into the metallic surface. But it was her face that made Marcus forget to breathe. Perfectly symmetrical features, large violet eyes, and an expression of intense curiosity as she scanned the wreckage. Behind her came 5 others, each beautiful in their own alien way. One had emerald green skin and hair like liquid copper. Another was tall and willowy with golden skin and eyes like polished amber. They moved with predatory grace, their weapons held ready but not threatening. Marcus tried to steady his breathing. He was just a maintenance tech. He wasn't trained for first contact protocols. Hell, he'd never even been off Earth before this assignment. But as he watched these alien women approach his hiding spot, one thought kept running through his mind. Are alien girls always this stunning? The blue-skinned woman raised her hand, and the others stopped. She said something in a melodic language that reminded Marcus of wind chimes. Her scanner, similar to his own but clearly more advanced, was pointing directly at his hiding spot. "Human," she said in accented but clear English. "We know you are there. Please come out. We mean no harm." Marcus's hands were shaking. How did they know English? Why weren't they shooting first and asking questions later? He gripped his plasma cutter tighter, knowing it would be useless against 6 armed opponents. "We monitored your distress signal," the woman continued. "We are rescue team from the Galactic Union. Please show yourself." Galactic Union? Marcus had never heard of any Galactic Union in his briefings. Humanity had only made first contact with alien species 3 years ago, and those had been hostile encounters that ended badly. The few aliens humans had met were either trying to kill them or study them like laboratory specimens. But these aliens knew English, claimed to be a rescue team, and hadn't started shooting. Marcus made what might have been the stupidest or smartest decision of his life. He stood up, hands visible, plasma cutter powered down. "Don't shoot," he said. "I'm unarmed." The woman's violet eyes widened slightly. She spoke rapidly to her companions in their musical language, then stepped closer. Marcus got his first good look at her, and his brain short-circuited. She wasn't just beautiful, she was impossibly beautiful. Her features were too perfect, too symmetrical. Her skin had a subtle glow that suggested some kind of bioluminescence. When she smiled, her teeth were white and perfect, and her canine teeth were slightly pointed. "You are injured," she said, noticing the dried blood on his uniform. "I am Zara of the Altarian Expeditionary Force. What is your name, human?" "Marcus," he managed. "Marcus Chen. I'm a maintenance tech with the Earth Colonial Authority." The other women had formed a loose circle around him, but their weapons were lowered. Marcus tried not to stare, but it was impossible. Each of them was stunning in a completely different way. The green-skinned woman had intricate tattoos that seemed to shift and move in the light. The golden-skinned one had hair that actually seemed to glow with its own inner fire. "You are the only survivor?" Zara asked, her voice gentle. Marcus nodded. 200 crew members, I've searched everywhere, it's just me." Something passed between the alien women, a look Marcus couldn't interpret. Zara stepped closer, close enough that he could smell her scent. It was like ozone after a thunderstorm mixed with something floral. "This is unusual," she said. "Human ships do not usually venture this far into Union space. What was your destination?" "Colony World Designation HD 164595B, Marcus replied. "We were carrying prefab habitation modules and agricultural equipment. It was supposed to be a routine supply run." Zara frowned. "That system is deep in contested territory, very dangerous. Why would your people send an unescorted cargo ship there?" Marcus realized he was in way over his head. He knew nothing about galactic politics or contested territories. He was a maintenance tech who fixed broken things. But something in Zara's tone suggested this was more serious than just a navigation error. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I wasn't part of the command crew, I just kept the life support systems running." The green-skinned woman said something urgent in their language. Zara's expression darkened. "We need to leave this place quickly," Zara said. "This sector is not safe. There are hostile forces in the area." "What kind of hostile forces?" Marcus asked. Before Zara could answer, a new sound echoed through the forest, a low, mechanical humming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The alien women immediately raised their weapons, forming a protective circle around Marcus. "Krillian hunters," one of them hissed. Zara grabbed Marcus's arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "We must go now." "Wait," Marcus said. "I can't just leave, I need to." "You need to live," Zara interrupted. "The Krillians do not take prisoners. They harvest biological material for their experiments." The humming grew louder. Through the forest canopy, Marcus could see dark shapes moving, sleek insectoid forms that seemed to flow between the trees like liquid shadow. "Move," Zara commanded. They ran. Marcus had never been much of an athlete, but adrenaline and terror gave him speed he didn't know he possessed. The alien women moved through the forest with inhuman grace, leaping over fallen logs and ducking under low branches without breaking stride. Marcus crashed through the underbrush behind them, his human clumsiness suddenly very apparent. Behind them, the forest exploded into violence. Trees splintered as energy weapons discharged. Strange, chittering sounds filled the air, the hunting calls of the Krillians. "There," Zara pointed to a clearing ahead where a sleek vessel waited. It was unlike any human ship Marcus had ever seen. All curved lines and organic-looking surfaces, like it had been grown rather than built. They reached the ship just as the first Krillian broke through the tree line behind them. Marcus got a glimpse of something nightmarish. Black chitinous armor, multiple limbs, and glowing red sensors where a face should be. It moved with horrible insectal speed. Zara's rifle discharged with a sound like thunder. The energy bolt caught the creature's center mass and sent it tumbling backward into the forest. But more were coming. "Inside," she commanded. The ship's hatch opened with a soft hiss. Marcus stumbled up the ramp, the alien women closed behind. The interior was spacious and elegant, with curved walls that seemed to pulse with soft light. Everything was sized for beings roughly human-proportioned, but the aesthetic was completely alien. "Secure for jump," Zara called out. One of the other women, the golden-skinned one, moved to what must have been the pilot's station. Her hands danced over controls that looked more like musical instruments than spacecraft interfaces. Through the ship's transparent walls, Marcus watched more Krillians emerge from the forest. There were dozens of them, all moving with that same horrible, coordinated precision. Some were humanoid, others were more spider-like, but all of them radiated predatory menace. The ship lifted smoothly, without any of the vibration Marcus expected from human vessels. As they rose above the forest canopy, he got his first good look at the planet from the air. The jungle stretched to the horizon, broken only by the scar of his crashed ship and several other impact sites that looked much older. "Your people have been coming to this world for some time," Zara observed, following his gaze. "That's impossible," Marcus said. "This was supposed to be an unexplored system." Zara and her companions exchanged glances. There was definitely something they weren't telling him. As the ship climbed towards space, Marcus found himself surrounded by 6 incredibly beautiful alien women who had just saved his life. Under normal circumstances, this would have been his wildest fantasy come true. But nothing about this situation felt normal. "Where are we going?" he asked. "Sanctuary Station," Zara replied. "You will be safe there while we determine what to do with you." "What to do with me?" Zara smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You are the first human we have encountered who is not actively trying to kill us, Marcus Chen. That makes you very valuable indeed." The ship broke atmosphere and jumped to faster-than-light travel. Through the transparent walls, Marcus watched the stars elongate into streams of light. He was leaving behind everything he had ever known, traveling to places that didn't exist on any human star chart, in the company of aliens who were either his salvation or his doom. And despite everything, the crash, the attack, the complete upheaval of his understanding of the universe, one thought kept nagging at him. They really were stunningly beautiful. As the ship raced through hyperspace toward an uncertain future, Marcus Chen, former maintenance technician, wondered if he was about to become the most important human in the galaxy, or just another specimen in an alien laboratory. The answer, he suspected, would depend entirely on these remarkable women who had chosen to save him rather than leave him to the Krillians. And Marcus was beginning to realize that their interest in him might be far more complex than simple rescue. The adventure, he thought with a mixture of terror and excitement, was just beginning. The journey to Sanctuary Station took 18 hours in hyperspace. Marcus spent most of that time trying to process what had happened to him. 3 days ago, he'd been a junior maintenance tech on a routine supply mission. Now he was traveling through space with 6 alien women who claimed humanity had been making contact with the galaxy far longer than he'd been told. The ship's common area was comfortable enough, with cushioned seating that adjusted automatically to his body and walls that displayed slowly shifting patterns of light. But Marcus felt like a fish out of water. Every surface seemed to respond to touch. The air smelled faintly of something like cinnamon, and the artificial gravity felt slightly different from Earth normal, lighter somehow. Zara sat across from him, studying a holographic display that showed star charts unlike anything in human databases. Her violet eyes reflected the light from the display, making her seem even more otherworldly. The other women had introduced themselves during the journey. Kira, the golden-skinned pilot, Nea, the green-skinned warrior with the shifting tattoos, Lyra, who had pale silver skin and seemed to be some kind of medic, Vera, whose dark blue skin was marked with intricate scarification, and Senna, the youngest-looking of the group, with rose-colored skin and hair like spun platinum. Each of them was beautiful in a way that seemed almost designed to appeal to human aesthetics. Marcus tried not to think about the implications of that. "Tell me about Earth," Zara said suddenly, looking up from her display. "What is it like now?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "What do you mean now? How would you know what it was like before?" Zara's expression was carefully neutral. "We have heard stories. The Galactic Union maintains observers throughout known space." "I've never heard of the Galactic Union," Marcus said. "If you've been watching us, why haven't you made contact officially?" That is complicated, Zara said. Your species has a reputation for being somewhat aggressive. Marcus almost laughed. We're aggressive. The only aliens humanity has met have been trying to either kill us or abduct us for experiments. Kira looked up from the pilot station. Those were not Union species, she said. The Krillians, the Zephyrians, the Hegemony, they are all hostile to both humans and Union worlds. So there are good aliens and bad aliens, Marcus asked. And somehow humanity only managed to meet the bad ones first. The women exchanged glances again. Marcus was getting tired of being left out of whatever silent communication they were having. It is not that simple, Zara said finally. Your people, some of your people, have been working with certain Union factions for several years, but it has been kept secret from your general population. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Secret how? Shadow organizations within your government? Nea said, speaking for the first time since introductions. Her voice was deeper than the others, with a slight rasp that Marcus found oddly attractive. They have been trading human genetic material and cultural information for technology. That's impossible, Marcus said, but even as he said it, he remembered the mysterious nature of his ship's mission. A supply run to an uncharted system with no escort. It hadn't made sense even to his inexperienced eyes. Your ship was not carrying agricultural supplies, Vera said quietly. Her scarification seemed to shift and move in the light, creating hypnotic patterns. Our scans of the wreckage found biological containment units and genetic sequencing equipment. Marcus stared at her. You're saying my own government sent me on a secret mission without telling me. Not just you, Lyra said gently. None of the crew knew. You were all listed as expendable personnel. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Expendable personnel. 200 people, including dozens he'd worked alongside for months, had been sent to die without knowing it, and he'd survived purely by accident. Why, he asked, why would they do that? Because someone in your government is working with the Hegemony, Zara said, and the Hegemony wants fresh human genetic samples for their breeding programs. Marcus felt sick. Breeding programs? Senna spoke up, her voice musical but sad. The Hegemony believes that humans have certain genetic advantages that could be useful for creating enhanced soldiers. They have been trying to acquire breeding stock for some time. The casual way she said breeding stock made Marcus's blood run cold. And you think my government was helping them? We know it, Kira said grimly. We have been tracking Hegemony movements in this sector for months. Your ship was scheduled to rendezvous with a Hegemony collection fleet. Marcus tried to wrap his head around it all. His own species was betraying itself to aliens who wanted to use humans as breeding material. Meanwhile, there was an entire galactic civilization that humanity knew nothing about, filled with people, beings, like these women who seemed genuinely concerned for his welfare. So what happens now? He asked. Now you meet the council, Zara said. They will want to hear your story directly, and they will want to decide what to do about Earth. What do you mean, what to do about Earth? Zara's expression was grim. The Union has a standing policy regarding species that work with the Hegemony, if humanity as a whole is collaborating with them. She didn't finish the sentence, but Marcus got the implication. The Union would treat Earth as a hostile world. But most humans don't even know aliens exist, Marcus protested. You can't judge an entire species based on what a few government officials are doing in secret. That is what we hope to convince the council, Vera said. Your survival might be the key to saving your entire world. The weight of responsibility settled on Marcus's shoulders like a lead blanket. He was just a maintenance tech. He wasn't qualified to speak for humanity or negotiate with galactic powers. But apparently he was all humanity had. The ship dropped out of hyperspace, and Marcus got his first look at Sanctuary Station. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, and impossibly beautiful. The structure seemed to be made of some kind of crystalline material that caught and refracted the light from nearby stars, creating rainbow patterns across its surface. Ships of dozens of different designs moved in and out of docking bays, and the entire station seemed to pulse with life. Home, Senna said softly, and Marcus heard genuine affection in her voice. As they approached the docking bay, Marcus couldn't help but notice how the other women were preparing themselves. Zara had changed from her practical armor into something that looked more ceremonial, a form-fitting outfit that seemed to be made of liquid silver. The others had made similar adjustments to their appearance. "Am I going to meet your leaders dressed like this?" Marcus asked, gesturing to his torn and dirty maintenance uniform. Lyra smiled and handed him a small device. "Wear this. It will provide appropriate clothing and protection." The device looked like a simple wristband, but when Marcus put it on, it immediately began projecting a field around his body. Within seconds, he was dressed in clothes that looked like a cross between formal wear and light armor. The material felt like silk but moved like fabric, and everything fit perfectly. "How does it know my size?" he asked. "It reads your biometrics," Lyra explained. "The nanofabric adjusts automatically." Marcus looked down at himself. He looked good, better than he'd ever looked in his life. The outfit was flattering without being ostentatious, and he felt more confident just wearing it. "Ready?" Zara asked. Marcus took a deep breath, as ready as someone can be when they're about to potentially save or doom their entire species. The docking process was smooth and silent. As they walked through the ship's corridors toward the exit, Marcus found himself surrounded by the 6 women. It should have felt protective, but instead, it felt like being escorted by an honor guard. The docking bay was enormous, with a transparent ceiling that looked out onto space. Dozens of different species moved through the area, some humanoid, others decidedly not. Marcus saw beings that looked like walking trees, others that seemed to be made of living crystal, and at least 3 species that appeared to be variations of what humans would call dragons. But what struck him most was how everyone seemed to recognize his escorts. Conversations stopped as they passed, and beings of all types watched them with what looked like respect and curiosity. "You're important people, aren't you?" Marcus asked quietly. "The Altarian Expeditionary Force has a certain reputation," Zara said with what might have been modest pride. They entered a transport tube that whisked them through the station at incredible speed. Through the transparent walls, Marcus got glimpses of the station's interior. Vast gardens filled with plants from 100 worlds, markets where beings traded goods that defied description, residential areas that looked like works of art. "How many species are part of the Union?" he asked. "Currently active, about 400, Kira replied, "though we have diplomatic relations with nearly 1,000 different civilizations." Marcus tried to imagine the complexity of governing such a diverse population. On Earth, humans could barely get along with each other. How did hundreds of alien species manage to work together? The transport stopped at what appeared to be a government complex. The architecture was elegant and flowing, with no sharp angles or hard edges. Everything seemed designed to promote a sense of calm and cooperation. As they walked through the corridors, Marcus noticed that other beings moved aside to let them pass. It wasn't fear, it was respect. Whatever the Altarian Expeditionary Force was, they were clearly held in high regard. "Before we go in," Zara said, stopping in front of a pair of impressive doors, "there is something you should know about the Council." "What?" "They are all female," Senna said. "The Union is predominantly matriarchal in nature. Male leaders are rare." Marcus blinked. "All female, every species." "Not every species," Vera corrected. "But the majority of Union leadership roles are held by females. It is considered a sign of wisdom and stability." "And humans are typically patriarchal," Nea added. "This may cause some cultural friction." The doors opened, and Marcus stepped into a chamber that took his breath away. The ceiling was transparent, providing a perfect view of space and the surrounding star field. The chamber itself was circular, with raised platforms arranged in concentric circles. On each platform sat beings of different species, all female, all radiating an aura of power and intelligence. In the center of the chamber was a single platform, clearly meant for the person addressing the council. Zara guided Marcus to it, then stepped back with the others. A being that looked like a cross between an elf and a butterfly stood up. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber, speaking in universal standard. "Marcus Chen of Earth," she said, "I am Council Prime Alara. You stand before the Galactic Union Council to speak for your species. We have heard disturbing reports about human collaboration with hegemony forces. What have you to say?" Marcus looked around the chamber at dozens of alien faces, all watching him intently. These beings held the fate of humanity in their hands. and he was supposed to convince them that his species deserved to survive. He thought about Zara and her team, who had risked their lives to save him. He thought about the beauty and wonder of Sanctuary Station, proof that different species could work together in harmony. And he thought about the 200 people who had died in the crash, unknowing pawns in a game they never understood. "Council Prime," he said, his voice steadier than he felt, "I believe my species is being betrayed by those who claim to lead us, and I think the Union might be our only hope." The chamber fell silent. In that silence, Marcus realized that he was no longer just a maintenance tech trying to survive. He had become something far more important and far more dangerous. He was humanity's voice in a galaxy that was about to decide whether his species lived or died. The council chamber remained silent for what felt like an eternity. Marcus stood on the central platform, acutely aware that dozens of alien leaders were studying him with expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism. Council Prime Alara, the butterfly-like being, folded her iridescent wings and settled back onto her platform. "Explain," she said simply. Marcus took a deep breath. He'd never been good at public speaking, but somehow, standing in this chamber filled with representatives of hundreds of worlds, words came easier than they ever had before. "3 days ago, I was a maintenance technician on what I thought was a routine supply mission," he began. "I wasn't important enough to know the real purpose of our journey, but I'm beginning to understand that's exactly why I'm valuable to you now. Because I represent ordinary humanity, not the people making deals behind closed doors." A murmur ran through the chamber. Several council members leaned forward with interest. "Continue," Alara said. "The Altarian team found evidence that my ship was carrying genetic sequencing equipment instead of agricultural supplies. My crew and I were told we were helping establish a new colony. But you're telling me we were actually being delivered to enemies of the Union for breeding experiments." The word breeding caused another stir among the council members. Marcus saw expressions of disgust and anger on several alien faces. A tall being with crystalline features stood up. "Human Chen, how can we trust that you speak truth? Your species has shown remarkable capacity for deception." Marcus felt a flash of anger. "Because I'm the one who survived when everyone else died. Because I had nothing to do with whatever secret deals were made. And because if I'm lying, you can verify everything I've told you." Zara stepped forward from where she stood with her team. "Council Prime, if I may." Ilara nodded. "Our investigation of the crash site confirms Human Chen's story," Zara said. "The ship's manifest was falsified. The crew quarters contained personal effects that suggest none of them knew the true nature of their mission. We found letters home, family pictures, entertainment media, all the things people would bring for a legitimate colony support mission." Another council member, this one resembling a humanoid tree, spoke up. "This suggests the corruption is limited to certain human leadership elements, not the species as a whole." "Perhaps," said a different voice. Marcus turned to see a being that looked disturbingly similar to the Krillians who had attacked him, except her chitinous shell was silver rather than black, and her multiple eyes showed intelligence rather than predatory hunger. "But how do we separate the corrupted from the innocent? How do we know this human is not simply an ignorant pawn being used by his superiors?" Marcus felt the mood in the chamber shift. Several council members nodded agreement with the insectoid being's concerns. He was losing them. "Because," Marcus said, speaking louder to regain their attention, "I'm willing to help you stop whatever my government is planning." The chamber fell silent again. This time the silence felt different, charged with possibility. "Elaborate," Ilara commanded. Marcus's mind raced. He was improvising now, but the logic felt sound. "You said you've been tracking these secret deals for months. That means you know more about what certain humans are doing than most humans do. I can help you understand human thinking, human psychology, human weaknesses, and in return, you can help me warn my people about what's really happening." The crystalline being who had spoken before stood again. "You would betray your own species." "I would save my species," Marcus corrected firmly, "from leaders who are willing to sell us to the hegemony without our knowledge or consent." Nea stepped forward to join Zara. "Council Prime, Human Chen demonstrated considerable resourcefulness during our rescue operation. Despite having no combat training, he managed to survive a Krillian attack and adapt quickly to first contact protocols." And Kira added, moving to stand with her teammates, his psychological profile suggests strong ethical foundations. He shows genuine distress at learning about the betrayal of his shipmates. Marcus realized that the 6 women weren't just his rescuers, they were advocating for him. The entire Altarian team was putting their reputations on the line to support his case. The Altarian Expeditionary Force speaks highly of you, Alara observed. This carries significant weight with the Council. The Insectoid Council members' mandibles clicked in what might have been irritation. The Altarians have always been sympathetic to promising individuals from developing species. Their judgment may be compromised by sentiment. Vera stepped forward, her scarification patterns shifting to deeper, more aggressive colors. Counselor Thrix, are you questioning our professional assessment? The tension in the chamber spiked. Marcus got the impression that there was history between the Altarians and Counselor Thrix that went beyond this particular case. I question whether 6 young females might be influenced by factors other than strategic value, Thrix replied coldly. The implication was clear, and Marcus felt his face burn with embarrassment. The Council thought the Altarian team was protecting him because they found him attractive, which, given the circumstances of his rescue, wasn't entirely unreasonable. Lyra surprised everyone by laughing, a musical sound that echoed through the chamber. Counselor Thrix, with respect, you clearly don't understand human biology. Human Chen is adequate by human standards, but hardly exceptional. Marcus wasn't sure whether to be insulted or grateful for the backhanded defense. However, Lyra continued, her voice becoming serious, his psychological resilience and adaptability are genuinely remarkable. He processed first contact, interspecies conflict, and galactic politics in a matter of hours without suffering psychological breakdown. That suggests significant untapped potential. Senna nodded agreement. His technical skills are also more advanced than his job title suggests. We observed him attempting complex repairs on his ship's communication system using improvised methods that showed considerable innovation. Marcus blinked in surprise. He hadn't thought anyone was watching his repair attempts, but apparently the Altarian team had been observing him for longer than he'd realized. A new voice joined the conversation, deep and melodious. Marcus turned to see a being that looked like a humanoid whale, with smooth blue-gray skin and intelligent black eyes. The question, the whale being said, is not whether human Chen is remarkable, but whether his species as a whole shows the potential for union membership. One individual cannot speak for billions. Actually, Marcus said, feeling bold, maybe I can. The chamber erupted in surprised chatter. Even the Altarian team looked shocked by his statement. Explain, Alara said, though Marcus caught a hint of amusement in her tone. You said my government has been making secret deals with your enemies. That means there's evidence, communications, meetings, transactions. If you help me expose that evidence to the human population, they'll turn against the collaborators. Humans hate being betrayed almost as much as we hate being lied to. The tree-like council member leaned forward. You would ask us to interfere in your species' internal politics. I'm asking you to give my species the chance to choose its own path, Marcus replied. Right now, we're making decisions based on false information. Show us the truth and we'll make the right choice. And if they don't, Thrix asked, what if your species chooses to continue working with the hegemony even after learning the truth? Marcus met her multiple eyes steadily. Then you do whatever you have to do to protect the Union, but at least give us the chance to prove we're better than our worst leaders. The chamber fell silent once more. Marcus could see council members exchanging glances, having silent conversations in ways he couldn't follow. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. The fate of humanity might be decided in the next few minutes. Finally, Alara spoke. The council will deliberate. Human Chen, you will remain on Sanctuary Station pending our decision. The Altarian team will serve as your guides and guards. Guards, Marcus asked. There are those within the Union who believe any contact with humans is dangerous, Alara explained. For your own safety, you will remain under Altarian protection. The formal session ended, and the council members began filing out through various exits. Marcus found himself surrounded by the Altarian team once again, but this time their expressions were unreadable. How do you think it went? He asked as they left the chamber. Better than expected, Zara said. Worse than hoped. They made their way through the station's corridors, passing beings of species Marcus couldn't begin to identify. Some stared at him with curiosity, others with suspicion. A few seemed genuinely friendly, offering what might have been smiles or waves. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked. "Now we wait," Kira said. "Council deliberations can take anywhere from hours to weeks." Weeks, Marcus felt a stab of anxiety. What about Earth, if there's going to be another ship full of unsuspecting humans sent to the hegemony? "We've already intercepted communications, suggesting the next shipment isn't scheduled for another month," Nea interrupted. "There's time." They arrived at a residential section of the station that was clearly designed for beings roughly human-sized. The corridor was lined with doors, each leading to what appeared to be private quarters. "This is where you'll be staying," Zara said, stopping at one of the doors. "The quarters are equipped with everything you'll need. Food dispensers are programmed with human nutritional requirements, and the entertainment systems have been loaded with educational materials about Union society." The door opened at Zara's touch, revealing a spacious apartment with large windows looking out into space. The furniture was comfortable and adaptable, clearly designed to accommodate a variety of body types. "This is bigger than my apartment back on Earth," Marcus said, impressed. "Altarian guest quarters are designed to make visitors feel welcome," Lyra said with a smile. "Comfort promotes better diplomatic relations." Marcus walked to the windows and looked out at the star field beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth, completely unaware that its fate was being decided by aliens in a crystal station orbiting an unknown star. "Can I ask you something?" he said, turning back to the women. "Of course," Zara replied. "Why did you really save me? I mean, you could have just monitored the crash site from orbit and confirmed that humans were working with the hegemony. You didn't need to risk yourselves rescuing someone who might have been an enemy." The 6 women exchanged glances, that silent communication again that Marcus was beginning to recognize. "Because," Senna said finally, "the Union was built on the principle that every individual deserves the chance to prove their worth, even if their species has made mistakes." And Vera added, her scarification shifting to softer, warmer patterns, "because the Altarian way is to judge beings by their actions, not their origins." Marcus felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the station's life support systems. These remarkable women had risked their lives to save him not because of what humanity might offer the Union, but because they believed he deserved a chance. "Thank you," he said simply. Zara stepped closer, close enough that Marcus could smell that ozone and flowers scent again. "Don't thank us yet, Marcus Chen. The real work is just beginning. If the Council approves your plan, you'll need to become something you've never been before." "What's that?" Her violet eyes seemed to look right through him. "A leader." As the Altarian team prepared to leave him to settle in, Marcus realized that his life had changed in ways he was still beginning to understand. 3 days ago, he'd been invisible, just another anonymous tech keeping the machinery running. Now he was potentially the most important human in the galaxy. But what struck him most was how natural it felt to be here, surrounded by these extraordinary women, preparing to help decide the fate of civilizations. For the first time in his life, Marcus Chen felt like he belonged somewhere. The irony wasn't lost on him that he'd had to leave Earth entirely to discover what he was truly capable of. Marcus had been on Sanctuary Station for 5 days when the Altarian team invited him to join them for combat training. He'd spent most of that time learning about Union society through the educational programs in his quarters, but he was getting restless. The apartment was comfortable, but he was used to working with his hands, fixing things, staying busy. "Combat training?" he asked when Zara extended the invitation. "I'm not exactly soldier material." "Perhaps not," Vera said, her scarification patterns shifting to an amused green. "But if you're going to be humanity's representative, you should know how to defend yourself. Union space can be dangerous." They made their way to a training facility that looked more like a park than a gymnasium. The space was enormous, with different environmental zones that simulated various planetary conditions. Marcus saw beings of dozens of species practicing different forms of combat, meditation, and physical conditioning. "The Altarian philosophy," Naya explained as they walked, is that physical training and mental training cannot be separated. A sound body supports a sound mind. They stopped at an area with soft, springy ground covering and equipment that Marcus didn't recognize. The 6 women began changing out of their civilian clothes into form-fitting exercise gear that looked both practical and, Marcus couldn't help but notice, extremely flattering. Lyra handed him a set of similar clothing. The fabric will monitor your vital signs and adjust support as needed. Try not to hurt yourself. Marcus changed in a nearby alcove, trying not to think about the fact that he was about to make a fool of himself in front of 6 incredibly capable alien women. The exercise outfit felt strange but comfortable, like a second skin that moved with him. When he emerged, he found the team had arranged themselves in a circle on the training mat. Zara gestured for him to join them. "We'll start with basic awareness exercises," she said. "Close your eyes and tell me what you sense." Marcus felt slightly ridiculous, but he closed his eyes and tried to focus. At first, he heard only the ambient sounds of the training facility, other groups practicing, the hum of air circulation, distant conversations. But gradually, he became aware of more subtle things. The breathing patterns of the women around him, the slight rustle of fabric as they moved, the faint sense that each of them carried, Zara's ozone and flowers, Kira's metallic tang that reminded him of hot metal, Nea's earthy musk. "Good," Zara said quietly. "What else?" Marcus concentrated harder. There was warmth radiating from their bodies, each at a slightly different temperature. Air currents that suggested movement even when he couldn't hear it. And something else, a subtle electromagnetic field that seemed to emanate from each of them. "You're not entirely human, are you?" he said, opening his eyes. The women exchanged surprised glances. "Explain," Kira said. "I can sense some kind of energy field around each of you. It's like a low-level electromagnetic signature, but it's too organized to be natural." Senna leaned forward, her rose-colored skin flushing slightly darker. "Most beings cannot detect Altarian bioelectric auras without training. How are you doing it?" Marcus blinked. "Bioelectric auras. Altarians are partially energy-based beings," Lyra explained. "We exist simultaneously in physical and electromagnetic spectrums. It's why our technology interfaces directly with our nervous systems." "And why," Vera added, her scarification brightening to an excited yellow, "we're considered exceptional pilots and fighters. We can sense the electromagnetic signatures of other beings and machines." Marcus looked around at the 6 women with new understanding. "That's how you knew exactly where I was hiding when you found me, and how you moved so perfectly as a team during the rescue." "Partially," Zara said. "But Marcus, the fact that you can sense our auras suggests something remarkable about your own neural structure." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, an alarm chimed throughout the training facility. All conversation stopped as beings of various species turned to look at display screens that had appeared on the walls. "Attention all station personnel," came an announcement in Universal Standard. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding human Marcus Chen and the Earth situation. All parties are requested to report to Council chambers immediately." Marcus felt his stomach drop. 5 days of deliberation, and now they had an answer. Whether humanity lived or died was about to be announced. "Quickly," Zara said, already moving toward the facility's exit. "Council summons are not to be delayed." They made their way back to the government complex at high speed, using priority transport tubes that whisked them through the station faster than Marcus thought was safe. Around them, other beings were doing the same. Apparently, Council decisions about potential new member species were major events that drew widespread attention. The Council chamber was more crowded than before, with additional platforms that had been brought in to accommodate observers. Marcus recognized some of the beings he'd seen around the station, as well as others who were clearly important officials. Council Prima Lara took her position at the center of the chamber. Her butterfly wings caught the light from the transparent ceiling, creating rainbow patterns that danced across the walls. "The Council has deliberated extensively regarding the situation with the human species," she announced, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "We have examined the evidence presented by the Altarian Expeditionary Force, reviewed intelligence gathered from multiple sources, and considered the testimony of human Marcus Chen." Marcus felt every eye in the chamber focusing on him. He tried to stand straighter, to look worthy of the trust that had been placed in him. "We have reached 3 conclusions," Alara continued. "First, that the human species as a whole is not complicit in the activities of certain human leaders who have been collaborating with hegemony forces. Second, that humanity shows significant potential as a Union member species, but lacks the unified leadership necessary for formal diplomatic contact." Marcus held his breath, 2 conclusions down, 1 to go. "Third," Alara said, and her voice took on a more formal tone, "that extraordinary circumstances require extraordinary measures. Therefore, the Council authorizes the establishment of a limited cultural exchange program between the Union and selected human representatives, with the goal of eventually enabling humanity to make an informed choice about its galactic future." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some beings seemed pleased, others concerned, and a few were clearly angry. Councillor Thrix's mandibles were clicking rapidly, and what Marcus had learned was a sign of agitation. "Furthermore," Alara said, raising her voice to restore quiet, "the Council designates human Marcus Chen as humanity's first official representative to the Galactic Union, with the rank of Cultural Exchange Ambassador." Marcus felt the floor drop out from under him. Ambassador, he was a maintenance tech. "The Altarian Expeditionary Force is assigned as his support team and cultural advisors," Alara continued. "They will assist in establishing contact with appropriate human authorities and coordinating the exchange program." Zara stepped forward and bowed formally to the Council. "We accept the assignment with honor, Council Prime." "However," Alara said, and her tone became sharp, "there are conditions. Human Chen must demonstrate that humanity is capable of ethical decision-making when presented with full information. He will be provided with evidence of the collaboration between certain human leaders and hegemony forces. How humanity responds to this information will determine whether they are offered full Union membership or other arrangements." Marcus didn't like the sound of other arrangements, but before he could ask for clarification, another alarm sounded. This one was different, urgent, and warbling. Emergency displays activated throughout the chamber, showing a star chart with blinking red indicators. "Council Prime," came a voice over the communication system, "we have multiple hegemony ships approaching Union space. They appear to be escorting a human vessel." The chamber fell silent. On the display, Marcus could see a formation of dark, angular ships surrounding a vessel that looked similar to his own crashed transport. "The human ship is transmitting surrender codes," the voice continued. "They're requesting permission to deliver their cargo to hegemony forces." Marcus felt sick. Another ship full of unsuspecting humans, about to be handed over to aliens who wanted to use them as breeding stock. "How long until they reach the rendezvous point?" Alara asked. 18 hours, Council Prime." Alara looked directly at Marcus. "Ambassador Chen, you wanted the chance to prove humanity's worth. Here it is. How do you propose we handle this situation?" Marcus's mind raced. Nearly 200 people were about to be betrayed by their own government, just like his crew had been. But now he was in a position to do something about it. "We intercept them," he said firmly. "We show the crew the evidence of what's really happening and give them the choice to defect or return home with the truth." "And if they choose to complete their mission anyway?" Councillor Thrix asked. Marcus met her multiple eyes steadily. "Then you'll know that humanity isn't ready for Union membership, but at least they'll be making an informed choice." Alara was quiet for a long moment, studying Marcus with those alien eyes. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. The Council authorizes a rescue mission. The Altarian Expeditionary Force will intercept the human vessel and provide them with the evidence of government collaboration with the hegemony. How the crew responds will serve as humanity's test." "Council Prime," Thrix interjected, "this is highly irregular. We are essentially asking a newly contacted species to judge itself." "Which is exactly why it's appropriate," Alara replied. "If humanity is to join the Union, they must prove they can make ethical choices even when those choices are difficult." As the council session dissolved into smaller discussions, Zara approached Marcus. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. "In less than a day, you'll be conducting your first official diplomatic mission." Marcus looked around the chamber at beings from hundreds of worlds, all of whom would be watching to see how humanity handled this test. Then he looked at the 6 remarkable women who had saved his life, and were now trusting him to save his entire species. "No," he said honestly. "I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know what's right, and I know you'll help me figure out the rest." Zara smiled, the first completely unguarded expression he'd seen from her since they'd met. "That," she said, "is exactly why the council chose correctly." As they prepared to leave for what might be the most important mission in human history, Marcus realized that his question from that first day, "Are alien girls always this stunning?" had evolved into something much more significant. These women weren't just beautiful. They were brilliant, capable, and ethical beings who had seen something in humanity worth saving. Now it was time to prove they were right. The next 18 hours would determine whether humanity joined the galactic community as equals or remained isolated on Earth, cut off from the wonders of the larger universe. Marcus Chen, former maintenance tech, was about to find out if he really could speak for his entire species. The Altarian ship Starweaver dropped out of hyperspace exactly 18 minutes before the human transport was scheduled to reach the hegemony rendezvous point. Marcus stood on the bridge, wearing his new ambassadorial outfit, a more formal version of the adaptive clothing he'd been given, with subtle markings that identified his Union rank. Through the ship's transparent walls, he could see the human vessel Pioneer's Dream approaching in the distance, surrounded by the dark, predatory shapes of hegemony escort ships. The human transport looked exactly like his own had, a utilitarian cargo hauler designed for long-range colony support missions. Hailing frequency open, Kira announced from her position at the communications console. Marcus took a deep breath. This was it, the moment when humanity would either prove itself worthy of Union membership or reveal itself to be irredeemably corrupt. Human vessel Pioneer's Dream This is Marcus Chen, Cultural Exchange Ambassador to the Galactic Union, aboard the Union ship Starweaver *. Please respond. The silence stretched for nearly a minute before a confused voice replied. This is Captain Sarah Walsh of the Pioneer's Dream Did you say, Galactic Union? Who is this really? Captain Walsh, I'm a human like you. I was aboard the transport Endeavor when it crashed on Zirion 6 days ago. I need to speak with you immediately about your mission. The Endeavor, Walsh's voice was sharp with concern. We lost contact with them last week. Are there other survivors? Marcus closed his eyes briefly. No, Captain, I'm the only one, and I need to tell you why. There was another pause then. Stand by, Ambassador Chen. This is highly irregular. Zara stepped up beside Marcus. The hegemony ships are maintaining their escort formation, she said quietly. But they're not interfering with communications. That suggests they're confident the human crew will complete their mission regardless of what we tell them. Or they want to see what we'll reveal, Vera added, her scarification patterns showing anxious orange. Captain Walsh, Marcus continued, are you alone? Can you speak freely? I'm on the bridge with my senior staff. Commander Torres, Lieutenant Chen, no relation, I assume, and Dr. Martinez. We're confused about who you are and how you know about our mission. Captain, I need you to listen very carefully. Your mission is not what you think it is. You're not delivering agricultural supplies to a colony world. You're being used to transport human beings to hostile aliens who want to use them for breeding experiments. The communications channel erupted in shocked voices. Marcus could hear multiple people talking at once before Captain Walsh restored order. That's impossible, Walsh said finally. We're carrying prefabricated habitat modules and farming equipment. I've seen the manifest myself. The manifest was falsified, Marcus said gently. Captain, I was a maintenance tech aboard the Endeavor *. I thought exactly the same thing you do right now. But the Altarian team that rescued me found genetic sequencing equipment in our wreckage and biological containment units. Our ships are being used to smuggle people to aliens called the hegemony. Altarian team? Commander Tor's voice was suspicious. You're claiming you've made contact with aliens. I'm claiming more than that, Commander. I'm saying that there's an entire galactic civilization out here that humanity knew nothing about, and that certain people in our government have been making secret deals with our enemies. Senna activated a holographic display showing the evidence they'd gathered from the Endeavor's wreckage. Captain Walsh, we're transmitting data files now. This is what we found in your sister ship's cargo bay. The communications channel went quiet as the Pioneer's Dream S crew reviewed the evidence. Marcus watched the hegemony ships on the tactical display, nodding that they were beginning to move closer to the human transport. My God, Dr. Martinez's voice was barely a whisper. These readings. There are people in stasis aboard this ship. I thought those containers were seed storage units. How many? Marcus asked, though he was afraid of the answer. 237, Captain Walsh replied, her voice hollow. We were told they were agricultural specialists going into cold sleep for the journey, but these readings show they've been sedated, not properly prepared for stasis travel. Captain, Zara interjected, you have a choice to make. The hegemony ships are expecting you to complete the transfer. If you refuse, they may attempt to take your cargo by force. And if we agree to the transfer? Commander Torres asked. Then those people will be taken to hegemony breeding facilities, Marcus said bluntly. They'll be used to produce enhanced soldiers for an alien military that considers humanity useful only as genetic raw material. The Pioneer's Dream S crew was quiet for a long moment. Then Captain Walsh spoke again. Mr. Chen, Ambassador Chen, what exactly are you proposing? Come with us to Sanctuary Station. Let your crew and passengers see the proof of what's happening. Meet the beings who actually want to welcome humanity into the galactic community as equals, not livestock. And then go home and tell our people the truth. And if our government tries to stop us? Marcus looked at Zara, who nodded encouragement. Then you'll have the backing of the Galactic Union, he said. Captain, there are 400 species in the Union, and they're all watching to see what humanity chooses when given the chance to decide its own fate. The tactical display chimed. Nea looked up from her station with concern. The hegemony ships are moving to intercept the human vessel. They're powering weapons. Captain Walsh, Marcus said urgently, you need to decide right now. Those alien ships aren't your escorts, they're your guards, and they're not going to let you leave. Pioneer's Dream this is Hegemony Commander Vexai. A new, harsh voice cut into the communications channel. You will maintain course and complete the transfer as agreed. Any deviation will be considered hostile action. Hostile action? Captain Walsh's voice was incredulous. We're a civilian transport. You are a delivery vessel carrying valuable cargo, Vexai replied coldly. The cargo will be transferred. Resistance will result in the destruction of your ship and the recovery of the containers. The implication was clear. The hegemony didn't care about the Pioneer's Dream S crew at all. They only wanted the humans in stasis. Captain Walsh, Zara said, taking over communications. This is Commander Zara of the Altarian Expeditionary Force. We are prepared to provide escort to Union space if you choose to refuse the transfer. You're outnumbered 6-1, Commander Torres pointed out. We are Altarians, Kira said simply, as if that explained everything. And apparently it did. The hegemony ships immediately shifted formation, moving to put distance between themselves and the Starweaver Asterisk. Captain Walsh, Marcus said, you have maybe 30 seconds to decide. Protect those people and come with us, or hand them over to aliens who see them as breeding stock. But our families, our world, if we refuse, won't that put Earth in danger? Earth is already in danger, Marcus replied. Your own government is selling people to hostile aliens. The only way to protect our world is to expose the truth and ask for help from beings who actually want to help us. The communications channel crackled with tension. Marcus could hear urgent conversation in the background aboard the Pioneer's Dream Starweaver Captain Walsh said finally. This is Captain Walsh. We're changing course. Pioneer's Dream requests escort to this sanctuary station. Hegemony vessels, Zara announced on an open channel. The human ship is under Union protection. Any hostile action will be met with appropriate response. The hegemony ships immediately began charging weapons and moving to attack formation. Marcus felt his stomach clench. This was about to become a battle, and there were still over 200 innocent people at stake. Kira, get us between the human ship and the hostiles, Zara commanded. Nea, Vera, prepare defensive screens. Lyra, monitor the human vessel's life support. If their stasis systems fail during combat, those people will die. What about diplomacy? Marcus asked. Can't we negotiate? The hegemony doesn't negotiate, Senna said grimly. They take what they want, and they want those humans. The first hegemony ship opened fire, sending streaks of energy that lit up the Starweaver *S defensive shields. But instead of returning fire immediately, Kira did something Marcus didn't expect. She began to dance. The ship moved through space with impossible grace, spinning and weaving between energy bolts like a leaf on the wind. Every movement was perfectly timed, every course change calculated to absorb the least possible damage while positioning them for optimal response. "Now you see why we're feared," Vera said with fierce pride as her hands moved over the weapons console. "Altarian pilots don't just fly ships, we become them." The Starweaver *S weapons discharged with surgical precision. Each shot was perfectly placed, targeting weapon systems and engines rather than going for killing blows. Within minutes, 3 of the 6 hegemony ships were disabled. *Pioneer's Dream *, this is Starweaver *, Zara called. "Jump to these coordinates as soon as your FTL drive is ready." "Already spooling up," Captain Walsh replied. "And Ambassador Chen, thank you. Whatever happens next, you saved those people." The human transport disappeared into hyperspace just as the remaining hegemony ships began a retreat. They'd lost half their force and failed their mission. There would be consequences for them from their superiors. "Sanctuary Station, this is Starweaver *, Zara reported. "Mission successful. We're returning with the human vessel Pioneer's Dream and 237 rescued civilians." "Acknowledged, Starweaver *, came Council Prime Alera's voice. "The Council is eager to hear Ambassador Chen's report." As they entered hyperspace, Marcus realized that everything had changed. He'd just convinced a human ship to defect from their own government and seek protection from alien allies. He'd helped rescue over 200 people from a fate worse than death, and he'd proven that humanity could make ethical choices when given the chance. "So," Zara said, settling into the chair next to his as the ship raced toward Sanctuary Station, "how does it feel to be a real ambassador?" Marcus thought about it. A week ago, he'd been invisible, just another face in the crowd, another anonymous worker keeping the machines running. Now he was potentially the most important human in the galaxy, responsible for negotiating his species' future with a galactic civilization. "Terrifying," he said honestly, "but also, right, like this is what I was supposed to be doing all along." "And what do you think about us alien girls now?" Senna asked with a mischievous smile. Marcus looked around at the 6 remarkable women who had saved his life, believed in him when no one else would, and helped him become someone he'd never imagined he could be. "I think," he said with a grin, "that you're not just stunning, you're extraordinary, and I think humanity is very lucky that you found us before we lost ourselves completely." Kira laughed. "Marcus Chen, I think this is the beginning of a very interesting partnership." As the Starweaver raced through hyperspace, carrying the first humans to freely choose alliance with the Galactic Union, Marcus realized that his question about alien beauty had become irrelevant. What mattered wasn't how stunning these women were. It was how they'd helped him discover what he was capable of when someone believed in him. And with their help, he was about to show the galaxy exactly what humanity could accomplish when it chose to be its best self rather than its worst. The real adventure, Marcus thought as he watched the stars stream past, was just beginning, and he couldn't wait to see what came next.